Chapter 4250. Wu Wenfeng took the inscription and couldn't help but feel happy. With these inscriptions, he believed that some of the cultivators in the sect would be able to improve their strength again. After Wu Wenfeng left, Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang. "What are you doing?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two people in front of her and couldn't help but shrink her neck. Her eyes were full of doubts. "Junior sister, you've hidden your strength too well. If we knew you were so powerful, we wouldn't have been so worried before." Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands. "I've already told you before, but you were still worried." Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao looked at each other. Yi Haomiao nodded. Thinking about it carefully, it seems to be so. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had been emphasizing for them to relax, but they were still worried. Now it seemed that they were overthinking. Since he sent people to follow Wu Wenfeng, Cheng Zonghao had been pacing back and forth in the room. This matter was too important to him, so he couldn't calm down to do other things. He was only thinking about where Wu Wenfeng's inscription came from. If he could find that inscription master, no matter what price he had to pay, he was willing to do it as long as the inscription master told him the method. He knew too well how explosive this news would be once it was spread out. If other inscription masters knew about it, it would really be a big mess. Not long after, Lu Jin came over. Seeing Lu Jin, Cheng Zonghao immediately asked, "Lu Jin, what's the result of following him?" "Master Cheng, according to the report, Wu Wenfeng directly returned to the Raging Flames sect after leaving and didn't go anywhere else." Cheng Zonghao frowned, and his eyes flashed with confusion and doubt. "He actually went back? That's not right. Master Cheng, what's wrong with him going back?" Lu Jin was puzzled. She didn't understand what the problem was. According to what he said before, this inscription was obtained from the trade market. Then, after knowing the true value of this inscription, he must have returned to the trade market immediately. However, he didn't go there and instead returned to the Raging Flames sect. This proves that what he told me before is most likely false. Lu Jin understood and sighed. That's right. If what he said is true, he must want to find an inscription master as soon as possible. According to the report, he didn't want to come out after going back. It's really too strange. Send someone out to find out what happened to the Raging Flame school recently. Be careful. I believe we will find the root of the problem. Cheng Zonghao's gaze was firm and persistent. He would never give up on such a good opportunity. No matter what, he had to find the inscription master. No matter how well Wu Wenfeng's hiding it was hiding the secret master's hide. With the news that Wu Wenfeng had recruited Bailey Hongzhuang into the Raging Flame sect, all the cultivators in the Raging Flame sect were shocked. Teet that's twos. To say us to, teetus even te understand it, est understand wise twoses. Chapter 4251. Although Steward Wu has always treated Wan Yanhan well, Wan Yanhan has caused such a big trouble this time. Not only did Steward Wu not blame him, he even recruited his junior sister. Isn't this too biased? I've never seen Steward Wu help anyone like this before. Di Wentao is someone with a background. In comparison, Wan Yanhan has no background. What is Steward Wu thinking? Isn't helping Wan Yanhan like this offending the Di family? It seems that Wan Yanhan will be a big deal in the Raging Flame school in the future. Since Steward Wu is helping him so much, it's better not to offend him in the future. The more they discussed, the more they felt that Steward Wu was biased towards Wan Yanhan. Although they didn't know why, they had already made up their minds to not provoke Wan Yanhan in the future. Now that Wan Yanhan didn't even care about Di Wentao, they indeed didn't have the capital to provoke him. After Yan Xiangming and the others heard this, their hearts also thumped. For a moment, they couldn't understand why the outcome was completely different from what they had imagined. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two walked out of the house to have dinner, they met Yan Xiangming and the others. From afar, they noticed that the three of them were looking at them with hatred. Obviously, they hated them to the core. Yan Xiangming and the other two are really Di Wentao's loyal dogs. Now that Di Wentao has become a cripple, they are still so stubborn. How surprising! Yi Haomiao shook his head and sighed. Today's matter was really a glimmer of hope. They originally thought that they were finished. Unexpectedly, The outcome was much better than they had imagined. For a moment, they didn't have to be afraid. It wasn't until they walked past Yan Xiangming and the others that Yan Xiangming called out, "Wan Yanhan." Wan Yanhan stopped and turned around to look at Yan Xiangming coldly. He raised his eyebrows and said, "What's the matter?" Seeing Wan Yanhan's nonchalant look, Yan Xiangming couldn't help but feel angry. He glared at him and said, "Wan Yanhan, you're really capable. You haven't been kicked out of the Raging Flame School after causing such a big trouble." "Thank you for the compliment." Wan Yanhan shrugged. "Actually, I've always been very capable. It's a little too late for you to realize it today." Yan Xiangming's face darkened immediately. "Although I don't know how you managed to stay here, I have to tell you that the Di family will never let you off. You turned Di Wentao into a cripple. Just wait for the Di clan's revenge." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two chuckled. "Come at me if you have the guts." "Well, wait here." As soon as they finished speaking, they took large strides and swaggered away. Yan Xiangming and the other two stood in place, their hands gradually clenching into fists. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two's attitude clearly showed that they didn't care about Di Wentao's matter at all. How despicable! Yan Xiangming couldn't help but shout angrily, "How dare they swagger through the streets like this? This time, I really don't understand." Previously, Wan Yanhan was clearly so afraid of Wentao. What's going on now? His personality suddenly changed. Could it be that he has a backer? Chapter 4252. After Di Wentao's dantian was destroyed, he was carried into the inn by Yan Xiangming and the rest. He was now resting on the bed. Until now, he still couldn't believe that he had become a cripple. When Yan Xiangming and the rest returned, he immediately asked, "What's the situation now? Have Wan Yanhan and the rest been chased out?" Looking at Di Wentao's anxious look, Yan Xiangming and the rest couldn't help but look at each other, finding it difficult to speak. Seeing this, Di Wentao frowned. "What's the situation? Hurry up and tell me." "Wentao, we also don't know what's going on. They haven't been chased out." "What?" Di Wentao tugged at Yan Xiangming's clothes. "That's impossible." "It's true, we're not lying to you." Yan Xiangming hurriedly explained. "Moreover, Wan Yanhan's junior sister has been recruited into the Fiery Blaze sect. To be honest, if we didn't see it with our own eyes, we wouldn't dare to believe it either." "Impossible." Wan Yanhan reached out and threw all the tea on the floor. His eyes were bloodshot as he shouted furiously, "That's absolutely impossible." Wentao, Yan Xiangming and the rest hurriedly approached, trying to calm Di Wentao down. However, Di Wentao suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Di Wentao's eyes widened as he looked at the three people in front of him. Then, his entire body convulsed and fell onto the bed. Seeing this, Yan Xiangming and the rest were dumbfounded. Yan Xiangming shook Di Wentao's body and realized that he didn't have any reaction. After testing his breathing, he realized that there was no breath at all. He couldn't help but take 2 steps back. His face was filled with shock and astonishment. "Wentao, he's already dead." Once this was said, the other 2 cultivators also looked as if they were struck by lightning. They stood dazedly on the spot, unable to react for a moment. Wasn't his dantian destroyed? Why did he die? "I don't know. Then what do we do?" Bailey Hongzhuang remained in the Fiery Blaze sect. At this moment, she had already moved into her own house. "Life is truly strange. I never thought that I would end up joining a force from the upper realm." There was a faint smile on her delicate face. However, in the dead of the night, she missed Bewitching even more. It had been a long time since she was alone. "Master, are you thinking about Bewitching?" Xiao Hei sat beside Bailey Hongzhuang, her soft little body pressed against her, as if she wanted to give her the most warmth. "Yes, I miss him." Bailey Hongzhuang hugged the little furball in her arms and rested her head on Xiao Hei's head. A smile slowly appeared on her lips. "Xiao Hei, I didn't realize that you were quite suitable to be a pillow. You're so chubby. It's so comfortable to hug. As long as Master is happy, I don't mind being a pillow." Xiao Hei stuck close to Bailey Hongzhuang. "Master, I believe that Bewitching will come looking for you very soon." He definitely won't give up until he sees your corpse. Perhaps he has already come to the upper realm to look for you. It's a pity that I can't do anything now. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. If there was a way, at least she could still work hard. However, there was nothing she could do now. All she could do was ask around for the D family's whereabouts. Master, as long as you're doing well, that's what Beichen wants to see the most, Xiaohei said. Chapter 4253. While Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking about D Beichen was walking on the road. The moonlight was hazy. D Beichen raised his head to look at the full moon in the sky. His gaze was distant and filled with longing. Wife, wait for me. I'll find you very soon. D Beichen's eyes became resolute as he gradually clenched his hands under his sleeves. Although he was separated from his wife this time, he was confident that he would be able to find her. After finding out that the transfer from the lower realm to the upper realm was random, he inquired about where the transfer would take him. Although he wasn't directly transferred to the same place as Hongzhuang, he believed that as long as he ran through all these places, he would definitely be able to find her. As long as they were still under the same sky, he would definitely be able to find her. Fortunately, there were transfer arrays between these large cities. However, it would take a certain amount of time to reach each transfer array. However, he had already tried his best to shorten the time. It was just a few cities. He was confident that he would only need to spend a little more time. In the next moment, D Beichen started walking again. He couldn't help but pray that Bailey Hongzhuang would be safe and sound. The next day, the news of Di Wentao's death quickly spread to the Blazing Flame School. For a moment, everyone was shocked again. Heavens, how could this be? Could it be that Wan Yanhan didn't just turn Di Wentao into a cripple, he even killed him? That can't be right. When Wan Yanhan and the others returned yesterday, Di Wentao and the others were still alive. Could it be that they were hunted down by his enemies again? Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were dumbfounded when they heard the news. This situation was beyond their expectations. How could this be? I only crippled Di Wentao's cultivation. He couldn't have died. Yi Haomiao was also in disbelief. Now that Di Wentao is dead, I'm afraid that we'll be in big trouble. However, no one can prove that we killed him. In this way, the person who killed him will be someone else. Now that I think about it, it's not all bad for us. Upon hearing Yi Haomiao's words, Wan Yanhan pondered carefully for a moment before nodding. You're right. The Di family should be dealing with their murderer. Just as the two of them were discussing, the door was suddenly kicked open. Then, Yan Xiangming and the others appeared in their line of sight. Wan Yanhan. Yan Xiangming and the others glared at Wan Yanhan and Mo Wuji. Their eyes were filled with rage. Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao immediately stood up and glared at him. Yan Xiangming, what are you doing? Wan Yanhan, you actually have the nerve to ask us now after killing Wentao? Yan Xiangming's eyes were burning, and his tone was extremely ruthless. He was simply about to be angered to death. Yesterday, Di Wentao died in front of him just like that. Thinking back and forth, he could only conclude that Di Wentao was angered to death by Wan Yanhan. After all, after they said that piece of news, Di Wentao spat out a mouthful of blood and died directly. They didn't sleep for the whole night. This was really a big problem for them. They didn't know how to deal with it at all. They were afraid that someone would blame Di Wentao's death on them. Then they would really be finished. Chapter 4254. Hearing Yan Xiangming and the other two's baseless accusations, Wan Yanhan and Yi Miaomiao were enraged. Yan Xiangming, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Which eye of yours saw us kill Di Wentao? Yesterday, after you crippled Wentao's cultivation, he died at night. He must have been heartbroken and anxious. Who else could it be but you? What you're saying is hilarious. Yi Haomiao was speechless. You can't just pin such a huge crime on us. After we came back yesterday, we stayed in the Raging Flames sect and didn't go out at all. Moreover, I've never heard of anyone dying after their cultivation was crippled. Even if you say this, no one will believe you. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at Wan Yanhan's residence and saw this scene, she frowned slightly, but her expression was rather calm. Everything was within her expectations. In fact, when she took action yesterday, She had already expected this outcome, so she hurried over early in the morning. I'm telling the truth. Yan Xiangming raised his voice. Wen Tao died because of you. You must take responsibility. Bailey Hongzhuang walked past Yan Xiangming and the others to Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao's side. She said, Yan Xiangming, aren't you framing us a little too openly? I heard that Di Wentao was rescued by you. Although we crippled Di Wentao's cultivation, they were still alive and well. Yet after leaving with you, he died. How do I know if you did something? Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Yan Xiangming and the other two's faces turned pale. They were most afraid that everyone would think in this direction, but Bailey Hongzhuang just had to bring up this point. How could it be us? Don't make slanderous accusations. Hee, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. You can't even speak properly now that I've exposed you? Does this count as a confession without being pressed? Immediately, everyone looked at Yan Xiangming and the others with strange gazes. Although everyone immediately felt that this matter was done by Wan Yanhan and the other two, Yan Xiangming and the other two's reactions were indeed somewhat suspicious. With such a nervous look, it was obvious that he had a guilty conscience. We're not. Yan Xiangming said righteously. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang coldly. Only now did he realize that Wan Yanhan's junior sister was not a simple character. In the past, when they dealt with Wan Yanhan, they had never found him so difficult to deal with. It turned out that all of this was related to this newly appeared Bailey Hongzhuang. Just like before, everything was under their control, but after Bailey Hongzhuang came, the situation changed. Of course, the murderer wouldn't admit to killing people. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and said indifferently, if we wanted to kill him, we would have done it yesterday. Since we dared to cripple his cultivation, why wouldn't we dare to kill him? We just wanted to spare his life for the sake of being from the same sect. It's a pity that no matter how much we took precautions, we still couldn't stop you traitors. Chapter 4255. Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. With the arrival of Bailey Hongzhuang, the situation had completely changed. Wan Yanhan, your junior sister is really amazing. With her around, we don't have to worry about Yan Xiangming and the rest slandering us. Yi Haomiao sighed. He was not good with words. Although he understood the logic, it was still very complicated to explain. Bailey Hongzhuang was much more eloquent. Wan Yanhan nodded. Yan Xiangming and the rest used the wrong move this time. With junior sister around, they can only return empty-handed. However, how did Di Wentao die? Could it be that Yan Xiangming and the rest really killed him and want to frame us? I don't know. Under Bailey Hongzhuang's questioning, Yan Xiangming and the rest were dumbfounded. No matter what they said, Bailey Hongzhuang was still able to turn the question to them, making them extremely helpless. Good. You're amazing. Yan Xiangming looked at Bailey Hongzhuang furiously. Although his heart was filled with anger, there was nothing he could do. Even if you have a glib tongue, you can't deny this matter. We've already informed the Di family. They'll be here soon. As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Xiangming said to the two people beside him, let's go. Although the other two people were extremely unwilling, they could only follow him and leave under such circumstances. After leaving, the two of them could not help but ask, are we leaving just like that? Won't that be letting that woman talk nonsense? What can we do if we don't leave? Yan Xiangming was also extremely depressed. That Bailey Hongzhuang is really too sharp-tongued. If we continue to stay there, I'm afraid everyone will think that we did this. Under the circumstances just now, he clearly felt that everyone's views had started to change. More and more people believed Bailey Hongzhuang. This was definitely not a good sign. Hearing this, the two of them fell silent. Yan Xiangming's words were indeed reasonable. Then what should we do now? We can only wait for the Di family to come. They should believe us. At the end of his speech, even Yan Xiangming himself lost some confidence. Only after Yan Xiangming and the other two left did the cultivators who were watching the show disperse one after another. The room also regained its tranquility. Bailey Hongzhuang closed the door and walked to the side to sit down. Yi Haomiao immediately gave her a thumbs up. Miss Bailey, you're amazing. Today, I've finally seen the power of your glib tongue. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. You flatter me. Speaking of which, it's strange. Yesterday, I clearly didn't kill him. Logically speaking, Di Wentao shouldn't have died. However, if you say that he was killed by Yan Xiangming and the others, I can't believe it. Wan Yanhan's face was filled with contemplation. He had been rivals with Di Wentao and the others for so long and understood their personalities very well. Yan Xiangming and the others were absolutely loyal to Di Wentao. Even if Di Wentao became a cripple, they still went to rescue him. Just from this point, one could see their feelings towards Di Wentao. Chapter 4256. Speaking of which, the other party didn't achieve their goal of framing us. Seeing that Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were deep in thought, Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly. However, as soon as she said this, Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were stunned. They stared at Bailey Hongzhuang stupidly, almost unable to digest what she said. I killed Di Wentao. You killed him? Yi Haomiao opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. Wan Yanhan quickly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and lowered his voice. Little junior sister, when did you do it? Did anyone find out about it? What you did was really too dangerous. Don't worry, no one should have noticed. Yesterday when I did it, you were right next to me. You didn't seem to notice. We were right next to you? Wan Yanhan was stunned. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. Then he asked in surprise, could it have been yesterday? That's right. But Di Wentao died last night. He was still alive and well during the day. I poisoned him. The toxin needs a certain amount of time to take effect. It's just enough to clear us of suspicion. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands, her expression calm. Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent expression, as if she was just saying that today's weather was good. Miss Bailey, then you really acted quickly. I was right next to you at that time, but I didn't notice. Yi Haomiao still found it hard to believe. Logically speaking, cultivators at their level of cultivation were considered to have sharp eyes and quick hands. Ordinary people's actions couldn't escape their eyes at all. However, at that time, he really didn't notice at all. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. At that time, everyone's emotions were complicated. It's normal that they didn't notice this. That's true. Yi Haomiao nodded. Then his gaze changed slightly. So, what Yan Xiangming and the others said is true. However, the way you spoke with certainty just now completely made you look like a victim. This kind of framing always requires some acting skills. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged, her expression innocent to the extreme. Yi Haomiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang for a moment, then cupped his fists and bowed. I'm impressed. Junior sister Bailey, did you already calculate all of this yesterday? Wan Yanhan couldn't help but ask after understanding everything that had happened. If all of this was within Bailey Hongzhuang's expectations, then this junior martial sister was too powerful. That's not it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. At that time, I only felt that Di Wentao was a very troublesome person. If he was still alive, I'm afraid that he would constantly think of ways to make trouble for us. The only way to solve this problem once and for all was to directly kill him. I didn't think that Yan Xiangming and the others would actually go back and bring Di Wentao back. It just so happened that this dirty water was poured onto them. Speaking of which, although I don't like Yan Xiangming and the others, I have to say that they are sincere towards Di Wentao. Most people would not be willing to be involved in such a situation where the situation was already hopeless. However, Yan Xiangming and the others were able to do this, which made her think highly of them. Chapter 4257. After the news of Di Wentao's death spread, the whole thing became complicated and confusing. Even though everyone was discussing it, no one could give a definite answer. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest put this matter aside. The Di family was a certain distance away from Rong and City. Even if they rushed over immediately after hearing the news, they would need some time. Furthermore, Wu Wenfeng had promised that the Raging Flames sect would not dare to cause trouble for them if they stayed. Junior sister Bailey, you just arrived in the upper realm. I think there are some things that I need to explain to you. After going through this incident, they could be considered to have gone through thick and thin together. Thus, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two formed a small team that trusted each other. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Then I'll have to trouble you, senior brother. Up until now, she still did not know much about the upper realm. She also did not know the difference between the upper realm and the lower realm's cultivation. Below the star radiance realm, we all rely on origin energy to fight. However, after breaking through the star radiance realm, the effects of elemental power begin to show, Wanyan Han said slowly. Elemental power? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Her clear eyes were filled with doubt. That's right. Wanyan Han nodded affirmatively. Elemental power has always existed. Everyone has their own innate elemental power. However, this power has not awakened below the star radiance realm. This power will appear after breaking through to the star radiance realm. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. Indeed, there were many changes between 1,000 years later and 1,000 years ago. Even the cultivation methods were different. I've always known about elemental power. However, in the lower realm, apart from a few cultivators who specially cultivated elemental martial skills, most people did not seem to pay much attention to it. That's right. However, after breaking through to the star radiance realm, one's elemental power will increase. As long as one grasps this direction of cultivation, one's combat power will increase. Furthermore, the limit of improvement will also increase. This is why the cultivators in the upper realm are generally stronger than those in the lower realm. This is also why only cultivators who have broken through to the star radiance realm can come here. Bailey Hongzhuang's pitch-black beautiful eyes revealed a trace of understanding. She immediately understood. Previously, she couldn't understand why it was set at the astral radiance realm, but now she understood. The purple realm and the starlight realm, just from the sound of it, one could tell that these were two completely different levels, and even two completely different worlds. My attribute is ice. Coincidentally, my weapon is also based on ice. Along with the inscription you drew for me, my combat strength has increased greatly. At this moment, Yi Haomiao added, that's right. My attribute is fire. My weapon also has the fire attribute. How do I know my own attributes? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. All this time, she had never thought in this direction and did not know what her talent attribute was. Little junior sister, you don't have to worry about this. Cultivators can use the attribute stone to test their own attributes. It will accurately determine your innate attribute and awaken it. It just so happens that in a few days, it will be the day for the new disciples to report in. You are also considered a new disciple this time. At that time, you will be able to test your innate attribute with them. Chapter 4258. You don't know this, but every year when a new disciple joins the sect, almost everyone goes to watch the show when the innate attributes are tested. The more powerful the innate attribute, the higher the future achievements. If you can awaken an extremely powerful attribute, your status in the Fiery Flames sect will be extraordinary. Yi Haomiao had a smile on his face as if he was watching the show. Speaking of which, this is the most important thing for a cultivator after reaching the Starlight Realm. How many attributes are there in total? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth? You're talking about the 5 basic attributes. These attributes are the most common. Other than that, there's also wind, thunder, ice, light, and darkness. Wanyan Han is the ice attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, indicating that she understood. These attributes are all attributes that exist in nature. Each attribute has its own characteristics, and cultivators of different attributes have different combat styles. Among them, metal, fire, ice, and thunder are the most powerful and have shocking destructive power. Wood attribute cultivators are good at entanglement, while water and earth attribute cultivators are good at defense. Wind elemental cultivators are good at speed, while ice elemental cultivators are more destructive than water elemental cultivators. They can both attack and defend. Generally speaking, cultivators with the strongest combat strength are those with the destructive attribute. However, wood and water attribute cultivators are usually more popular. This was because their attributes had some healing properties. In the absence of a doctor, they could play a certain role. When going out to fight, there were many times when their help was needed. In addition, their attack power wasn't very strong, so many people were willing to be friends with them. As for Wan Yanhan and I, we're basically violent maniacs. We're not very popular. Yi Haomiao spread out his hands with a helpless expression. Senior brother Wan Yan is of the ice attribute. Ice is water. Don't tell me it doesn't have any healing effect? Wan Yanhan smiled faintly. The ice attribute has more offensive power than the water attribute, but it also has less healing power. It can only be said that the heavens are fair. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. I see. I understand now. However, you've said so much. Why didn't you mention the dark and light attributes? She did not understand the power of light, but she was very curious about the power of darkness. After all, Bewitching had received the inheritance of the power of darkness in the training ground. She vaguely felt that since Bewitching could receive the inheritance of the power of darkness, it was very likely that his attribute was darkness. Even if he wasn't of the dark attribute before, he might have become one after receiving the inheritance. Speaking of these two attributes, it's a bit complicated. Wan Yanhan couldn't help but say, you should have some understanding of the dark attribute. You've already come into contact with it when you were training, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Not bad. Then you should know how terrifying the destructive power of the dark forces is. Furthermore, they can summon skeletons. Needless to say, with such combat power, they are definitely overlords. However, after what had happened in the past, everyone did not have a good impression of the power of darkness. Furthermore, the inheritance of darkness had basically disappeared in the river of history. Chapter 4259. It's true that dark energy cultivators rarely appear, but I think it might be because these cultivators know that dark energy isn't popular, so they don't show it. Yi Haomiao shrugged. Speaking of which, the cultivators who awaken the dark energy are quite unlucky. Actually, they didn't do anything wrong. It's just that this energy isn't popular and they don't know how to use it, so it's very difficult for them to improve. It can't be helped. Wan Yanhan nodded. They originally had a bright future, but after awakening the dark energy, there's less room for improvement. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown when she heard that. She didn't think that the cultivators in the upper realm would dislike the dark energy so much. When she was in the lower realm, she had also sensed this, but it was not too obvious. In their opinion, as long as they could become stronger, it didn't matter what type of energy they had. However, it seemed that it was very difficult for dark energy cultivators to improve in the upper realm. If that was the case, wouldn't Bewitching be in a lot of trouble? A trace of worry quietly appeared in her pitch-black phoenix eyes. This wasn't a situation she wanted to see. Bewitching had always been favored by the heavens. In addition, he now had the destined constitution, so his cultivation speed was far from being comparable to ordinary cultivators. If he was affected because of this, it would be too tragic. If these cultivators hide their dark energy, what attribute do they use to show others? Bailey Hongzhuang asked, puzzled. Wan Yanhan pursed his lips and said helplessly, in the upper realm, there are some cultivators who can't awaken their elemental talents. Bailey Hongzhuang was astonished. Can't awaken their elemental talents? Wan Yanhan nodded. That's right. Just like how some people can't cultivate when they're born, some cultivators can't awaken their elemental talents. However, these cultivators are very tragic. Once they awaken their elemental talents, their combat power will increase greatly. If they can't awaken their elemental talents, it means that they've lost this huge advantage. When they face cultivators who have awakened their elemental talents, they'll be at a disadvantage. In my opinion, the cultivators who have awakened the dark energy might be hiding among these cultivators who can't awaken their elemental talents. I think so too, Yi Haomiao agreed. Actually, there are still many people who can't awaken their elemental talents, but their situation isn't too bad. Even though there is still a gap between them and cultivators who have awakened their elemental talents, cultivators who have reached the astral boundary have decent battle prowess. They have no problem protecting themselves. However, it would be difficult for them to become famous in the martial arts world. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were distant and complicated. She was not unfamiliar with this feeling. Thinking back to when she was in the general's residence, she was very familiar with this feeling. It was definitely not a good feeling. Bewitching that he's elemental talents. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think. According to Di Beichen's temperament, she was afraid that he would not hide it. It was just that the power of darkness was so restricted in the upper realm. It was really difficult to develop it. It was just that he didn't know what kind of inheritance Beichen had obtained from the darkness relic and whether it would change the situation. Chapter 4260. Now that there was finally a change, she really didn't want such a thing to happen again. That was something none of them wanted to see. Junior sister, what are you thinking about? Wan Yanhan couldn't help but ask when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang fall into her own thoughts after hearing the news about the dark force. Hearing Wan Yanhan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang came back to her senses and immediately said, "Nothing, I was just thinking that the dark force was so powerful in our eyes in the lower realm. I didn't expect it to be like this in the upper realm. It's undeniable that the dark force is really powerful. It's precisely because it's powerful that it's feared by everyone. Although everyone disdains the dark force when it's mentioned, we all know that the dark force is powerful and its means are terrifying. If the inheritance of the dark force hadn't disappeared in the Great War back then, the dark force cultivators would definitely be extremely powerful. Yes, in fact, it's not that the dark force is bad. It's just that they're more unlucky. It just so happens that everyone rejects the dark force. Miss Bailey, from the looks of it, you don't look like you'll awaken the dark force. You don't have to worry." Yi Haomiao saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had a lot on her mind and thought that she was worried that she would be unlucky, so he comforted her. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, "I understand. By the way, you mentioned the dark force. What about the light force?" "Speaking of the light force, it's another story." Wan Yanhan smiled faintly and said, "I'm all ears." The light force can be said to be the most sought-after power in the upper realm. Every cultivator who awakens the light force has a very high status because light is what everyone yearns for. Moreover, the light force itself is very powerful. Most importantly, it's a power that has a large range of effects. During battle, the light force cultivators can even use some methods to increase the strength of the cultivators in their team. In a group battle, it's simply a blessing for their teammates. In that case, the light attribute cultivators should be very popular, right? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and said, "Of course." Wan Yanhan replied, "Among all the cultivators of the light attribute cultivators are the most popular. However, the number of cultivators who awaken the light attribute is also the least." "Why is that?" Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. "Everything has a law of balance. Logically speaking, the number of cultivators of each attribute should be about the same." Yi Haomiao shook his hand. "This matter isn't that simple. Back then, when the power of darkness was rampant, the ones who destroyed the inheritance of darkness were cultivators of the light attribute. These two attributes were supposed to restrain each other. It was just that the battle back then was really terrifying. Although the inheritance of the power of darkness was destroyed, the inheritance of the power of light was also lost. Although the power of light is still highly sought after, due to the issue of the lost inheritance, the improvement has been limited to a certain extent. However, this is still a very glorious attribute. Chapter 4261. Only a part of the inheritance of the power of light has been lost. Actually, the cultivators of the power of light are also very powerful. If they hadn't been lost, they would probably be even more powerful now. It's strange. Perhaps it really is a balance between heaven and earth. There are very few cultivators of the dark attribute now, but there are also very few cultivators of the light attribute. It's really surprising. In the entire House of Flames, there's only one cultivator of the power of light. She's the center of attention here. Yi Haomiao smiled. There's only one person? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened. Although she hadn't been in the House of Flames for long and didn't know much about the situation here, she could tell from what she had seen that the number of cultivators in the House of Flames was very shocking. However, there was only one person among so many cultivators. Wasn't this ratio a little too small? Little junior sister, you must be very surprised by this, right? Wan Yanhan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and couldn't help but chuckle, to think that I had the same reaction when I first found out. This ratio really makes one sigh. According to this ratio, cultivators of the power of light should belong to a kind of religious existence. That's right. Yi Haomiao raised his right hand. Miss Bailey, you've really hit the nail on the head. Now, as soon as a cultivator of the light attribute appears, they'll be immediately recruited by everyone. If a force doesn't have a cultivator of the light attribute holding the fort, it'll be very awkward. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. This situation was really hard to imagine. Miss Bailey, previously when we were dealing with Di Wentao, the power you displayed suppressed the group of people. Come to think of it, the feeling you gave off during battle is somewhat similar to the characteristics of the power of light. The only difference is that you weaken the opponent's strength, while the cultivator of the light attribute increases the battle power of our side. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's just a kind of aura. It has nothing to do with the attribute. Even after Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house, she was still thinking about this matter. Master, what are you thinking about? Baisher sat beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Are you worried about Beichen? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I didn't expect that after coming to the upper realm, the situation would be like this. If Beichen knew about this, I'm sure his feelings would be very complicated. Actually, I think that if Beichen is really a disciple of the Di family, with such a background, so what if he awakens the dark attribute? Baisher stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Awakening the dark attribute in a situation of isolation and helplessness was indeed a helpless thing, but if there was enough background, then there was nothing to fear. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Baisher's soft fur. At present, although we feel that this is very likely, we can't be completely sure. Only in the future when we go to the Di family will we know. I hope that Beichen will come with Ao Lingxiao. Without Ao Lingxiao leading the way, it'll be very difficult for us to find the Di family. Moreover, if Beichen is really a disciple of the Di family, we don't know what the current situation of the Di family is. If someone wants to harm Beichen and use this point to make an issue out of it, it'll be troublesome. Chapter 4262. White Lion, who had originally been rather optimistic, fell silent after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Indeed, there were too many uncertain factors. No one knew what the situation would be until the end. Master, perhaps Beichen's awakened power is not the dark attribute? Xiao Bai also came over. Perhaps the situation is not as bad as we think. I hope so. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. However, she felt that Di Beichen had obtained the inheritance of the dark attribute when so many people had fought for it. This point alone was enough to prove many things. She was not someone who worried for nothing, but she was also not blindly optimistic. There were indeed many signs in this. However, things would cross that bridge when they came to it. No matter what the situation was, she believed that there would always be a solution. Furthermore, it would be fine as long as they were together. Even if the road ahead was difficult, so what? There was still nearly half a month before the new disciples' competition. During this period, Bailey Hongzhuang cultivated peacefully in the Blazing Flame sect. Now, many people were filled with curiosity about her. In addition, the Di family could come knocking at her door at any time. She did not want to cause any unnecessary trouble, so she simply stayed in the house and did not go out. At the moment, she did not know her own attributes, so she could not research in this area. However, Bailey Hongzhuang put more of her experience in the newly opened stone room. Speaking of which, this stone room had been opened for quite a long time, but she had not been able to figure out the use of the method written on it. After comprehending for a long time, she vaguely felt that it was related to the desert world and the ocean world that she had explored. However, as for the specific relationship, she felt that she was about to comprehend it, but there was still some distance between them. What does this have to do with the desert world and the ocean world? This is really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang looked puzzled. All along, she had felt that her comprehension was not bad. However, she had not expected that after comprehending for so long this time, she still could not completely comprehend it. This made her feel somewhat helpless. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was deep in thought, there was a sudden knock on the door. As she opened the door, she saw Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao as expected. However, after noticing their complicated expressions, she couldn't help but ask, "The D family is here?" Wanyan Han nodded slightly. "Not bad. They've just arrived in Rong and City, and they're already on their way to the Raging Flames sect. I'm afraid there'll be trouble soon. Fortunately, we are in the Blazing Flame school. Even if they come, they won't dare to attack us directly." A complicated look flashed across Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, but her expression was very calm. "Don't worry too much. Steward Wu has already promised us. He will naturally appear when the D family comes." "I hope so." The worry in Yi Haomiao's eyes did not disappear. "This matter is still a little worrying. I don't know if the D family will exert pressure. If Steward Wu can't handle it, it will be terrible." Wanyan Han shook his head and said, "I don't think so. That would be underestimating the Raging Flames sect's ability. Although the D family has a certain level of strength, they can't challenge the Raging Flames sect in Rong and City. It will be fine as long as Steward Wu doesn't change his mind." Chapter 4263. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came out, the D family cultivators, led by Yan Xiangming and the others, walked into the Fiery Flame sect in a grandiose manner. Many people from the D family came this time. One look and I can tell that they are not weak. I'm afraid Wanyan Han and the others are in trouble now. That's right. They should have expected this outcome when the incident happened. Now that they have chosen to stay in the Fiery Flame sect, aren't they waiting for them to come knocking on their door? I'm afraid there will be a show to watch today. Judging from the D family's lineup, they will not rest until they kill Wanyan Han and the other two. Such a huge commotion immediately attracted a large number of cultivators, especially after seeing the other party's grandiose lineup. Everyone could not help but exclaim inwardly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, who were standing nearby, naturally noticed this scene as well. Their expressions could not help but change. It seems that the D family values Di Wentao quite a lot. They actually sent so many people. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her long, shapely eyebrows slightly. She crossed her arms in front of her chest with a somewhat playful expression. Wanyan Han's gaze was solemn. I'm afraid they are not only doing this for Di Wentao but also for their family's reputation. After all, they dared to kill Di Wentao, which means that they are not taking them seriously. Naturally, they are here to teach them a lesson. Yan Xiangming and the other two are really concerned about this matter. I'm afraid that they have already received the D family the moment they arrived. Yi Haomiao looked at Yan Xiangming and the other two with an unfriendly gaze. These guys were really too detestable. They have always been like this. Now that they are worried that the D family will blame them for this, they are naturally even more anxious. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. In fact, Yan Xiangming and the other two were indeed thinking this way. They knew very well that Di Wentao had died in front of them. To put it bluntly, he had been angered to death by them. If they had not told Di Wentao that Bailey Hongzhuang had stayed in the Fiery Flame sect, Di Wentao would not have died. What they were most worried about now was others discovering this, so they could only think of ways to divert all the contradictions to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After seeing Wanyan Han and the other two, Yan Xiangming couldn't help but say, "It's them. They were the ones who crippled Wentao's cultivation, causing his death." As soon as Yan Xiangming finished speaking, the cultivators of the D family immediately locked their gazes on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Their gazes also became hostile. "It's you guys?" The aura of the leader of the D family men immediately rose. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were shocked to discover that the other party's cultivation level was at least at the 8th level of the Star Radiance realm. A cultivator with such a cultivation base would definitely have an extremely shocking combat strength. Faced with the other party's questioning, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two did not cower. They simply stood where they were and nodded. Since everyone knew about this, they naturally couldn't deny it. However, after seeing their attitude, the other party could not help but become even angrier. I am Di Wentao's elder brother. My name is Devaos. You killed Wentao, so I want you to pay with your blood. As soon as he finished speaking, the other party wanted to attack them with his palm. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two quickly retreated and avoided the other party's attack range. Wu Zhe. Chapter 4264. Hearing the words of the person behind him, Di Wuze finally stopped what he was doing. He gloomily glanced at Wang Yanhan and the other two before coldly saying, I'll let you off for now. But just you wait, I'll definitely make you pay with your blood. As soon as the voice fell, the cultivators of the Di family all glared at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two fiercely, and then continued to walk into the Raging Flames gate. Yan Xiangming and the other two were also gloating. They had suffered at the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, but now that the Di family was here, they could completely turn the tables. Judging by their behavior, they should be looking for Steward Wu, Yi Haomiao said unhurriedly as he watched Yan Xiangming lead the Di family cultivators in. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was slightly cold. Let them go. Steward Wu will naturally deal with it. Wang Yanhan nodded. However, judging by their attitude, I am afraid that they will not give up so easily. This will depend on Steward Wu's ability. The Fiery Flame sect is huge. Since he made a promise to us previously, he will naturally be able to fulfill it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. As the steward here, Steward Wu naturally knew the situation in the upper world better than they did. It seemed that Steward Wu had already weighed the pros and cons before recruiting her. Since he had agreed, he naturally had the ability to fulfill all of this. Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao exchanged a look and then nodded. Then we will leave this to Steward Wu to worry about. Those three fellows did not run away. They actually dared to stay in the Fiery Flame sect. They are really bold. Devao's expression was gloomy, especially when he saw the other party's nonchalant expression after seeing them. He felt even more displeased. Yan Xiangming then said, Steward Wu seems to be very protective of them. Previously, when Wentao was here, Steward Wu gave the title of team leader to Wang Yanhan. Because of this, Wentao has always been very unhappy, so he has always tried to think of ways to snatch back the title of team leader. However, in the end, Wang Yanhan took the opportunity to destroy his cultivation level. Damn it! Devaos clenched his fists. What did Wentao do wrong? Why did Steward Wu give the title of team leader to someone else? Di Wentao was his biological brother. He had originally planned to let Di Wentao stay here for a few years before returning. He had not expected that he would lose his life here. I don't know. Yan Xiangming shook his head. That Wang Yanhan is a cultivator from the lower realms. He should have been at the bottom of the hierarchy in the Raging Flame School. However, his cultivation talent is not bad and his speed of growth is very fast. Steward Wu might have seen that he was improving very quickly, so he did this. This guy really thinks he's a typesetter just because he's given a little bit of face. Does he think he's anything in the upper realm with his meager abilities? Devaos snorted. He had the guts to attack a member of the Di family. He must have had a death wish. Yan Xiangming nodded repeatedly. Big brother Wu Zhe, you must kill them to avenge Wentao. Otherwise, Wentao will not die in peace. Chapter 4265. Yan Xiangming and the other two were relieved when they heard Devao's words. The Di family trusted them. As long as they insisted that Di Wentao's death was caused by Wang Yanhan and the other two, they would not have to worry about being implicated. Before long, Yan Xiangming and the Di family arrived at Steward Wu's place. Big brother Wu, Steward Wu is in this house. You can find him yourselves. It will be inconvenient for us to enter, Yan Xiangming said flatteringly. All right. Devaos nodded. You can wait nearby. We will find Steward Wu and ask for an explanation. Devaos knocked on the door immediately. Even though he was in a bad mood, his knocking was extremely loud. Bang, bang, bang. Wu Wenfeng was well informed. He had already received the news when the Di family's cultivators had arrived at the Blazing Flame sect. When he heard the unhappy knocking on the door, he naturally knew who it was. "Please come in." Just as Di Wuzo was about to enter the room, his senior suddenly grabbed his hand and said with a deep voice, "Restrain yourself a little when you go in later. No matter what, this person is still a steward of the Blazing Flame sect. You can't show your temper in the clan." DeVos could not help but frown when he heard that. However, he still nodded. A powerful dragon could not defeat a snake in its old haunts. Although the D family had some power, they naturally had to restrain themselves now that they had arrived at the Blazing Flame sect. After entering the house, the elder of the D family, Di Sudong, greeted him with a smile. Steward Wu. Wu Wenfeng also greeted him with a smile. "Brother Di, I apologize for not coming out to greet you." Di Sudong cupped his fists. "Steward Wu is usually busy with official business. We are the ones who have disturbed you today." "What are you talking about?" Wu Wenfeng smiled faintly. "Please take a seat. I will get someone to serve you tea." DeVos could not hold back his thoughts and wanted to get straight to the point. However, Di Sudong had already signaled him not to be anxious with his eyes. Thus, he could only hold back and not ask. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Di Sudong slowly said, "Steward Wu, you should know why we are here today, right?" Hearing Du Sudong's words, Wu Wenfeng sighed in his heart. Du Sudong had finally gotten to the point. "If I'm not wrong, you're here for Di Wentao, right?" Di Sudong nodded slightly. Wentao is a direct descendant of the Di family, yet he was killed in Rong City. As his family, we naturally have to seek justice. I understand your thoughts. Wu Wenfeng sighed. "Steward Wu, it's good that you understand." DeVos could no longer hold himself back. "The culprits are in your Blazing Flame school right now. I hope you can hand them over to us." "Young Master D, what do you plan to do?" "Of course we have to kill them. My younger brother died in their hands. If we let them live in this world, how will we explain it to my dead brother?" DeVos' eyes flickered with a ruthless glint. As he thought about those fellows, his heart burned with fury. He hated that he could not take their lives right now. Di Sudong did not say anything. He only looked at Wu Wenfeng, wanting to know what kind of answer he would give. Chapter 4266. Young Master D, I'm afraid I can't agree to this. Wu Wenfeng looked like he was in a difficult position. However, he was just pretending. After all, he had to give the D family some face even if he wanted to refuse. Upon hearing Wu Wenfeng's words, the expressions of the D family's cultivators turned ugly all of a sudden. "Why?" DeVos asked hurriedly. "They're all disciples of the school of Raging Flames. It's our responsibility to protect them here," Wu Wenfeng said slowly. "My brother is also a disciple of the Inferno sect. Why didn't you protect him?" DeVos asked. "Wu Zhe!" Di Sudong shouted angrily. DeVos looked at him and shut his mouth. Steward Wu Zhe is also immersed in grief. That's why he spoke so rashly. "I hope you can forgive him," Di Sudong said calmly. Wu Wenfeng nodded and waved his hand. "I understand. Under such circumstances, it's inevitable that young Master D would feel this way. Steward Wu, to be honest, we came here specially to avenge Wentao. Your answer is really hard for us to accept. Brother D, I understand how you feel. However, you should also know that internal conflicts between disciples of the Inferno sect, such as injuries and deaths, are unavoidable. Di Wentao and Wanyan Han have always been rivals. They have had many conflicts and Wanyan Han has often been injured. However, the situation this time was more serious and Di Wentao died because of it. I know that this is hard for you to accept, but it doesn't violate the rules of the Inferno sect. Furthermore, they are disciples of the Inferno sect. If they have a conflict with our own disciples, we naturally won't interfere. However, if outsiders are involved, the situation will be different. Brother D, I believe you understand this. I understand. Di Sudong nodded. When DeVos heard Di Sudong's words, he couldn't help but feel anxious. Second Uncle Di Sudong glared at DeVos. His gaze was stern and intimidating, forcefully suppressing the words that DeVos was about to say. Manager Wu, I understand what you're saying. However, I've heard that this Wanyan Han is only a cultivator from the lower realm. If he has a strong background, I can understand why you would make such a choice. However, he has no background. Even if you hand the three of them over to us, it won't affect anything. Di Sudong narrowed his eyes. He understood that Wu Wenfeng had been talking to him in a bureaucratic tone. He was very clear about how to deal with this kind of situation. Wu Wenfeng would definitely not offend the Di family for a person without any background, even if he had some talent for cultivation. Upon hearing Di Sudong's words, Wu Wenfeng also understood that if he did not make things clear, the Di family would definitely not give up today. When he thought of this, he could not help but say, "Brother Di, to be honest, I would not have stepped forward to protect them in the past. However, the situation is different now." What's the difference? You should know that offending an inscription master is not a wise move. There is only one inscription master in Rome and city, so the Inferno sect is restricted to a certain extent. Chapter 4267. After hearing Wu Wenfeng's words, Di Sudong could not help but frown. Inscription master? Wu Wenfeng nodded slightly. That's right. As far as I know, the only inscription master in Rome in city is Cheng Zonghao. What does Manager Wu mean? Could it be that Master Cheng is related to Wanyan Han and wants to protect them? Di Sudong's thoughts were complicated. If that was the case, then this matter would be difficult to handle. After all, an inscription master's influence was not small. Cheng Zonghao had been in Rome in city for so many years and had a lot of connections. If they did not give him any face, it would not be easy to end the matter. However, Wu Wenfeng shook his head. It's not Master Cheng. Then who is it? DeVos asked. He could not understand why Wanyan Han, a cultivator from the lower realm, would have an inscription master backing him up. This was too strange. No wonder Wanyan Han dared to attack Di Wentao after knowing his background. It turned out that he had such a layer of confidence. She is Wanyan Han's junior sister and is also an inscription master. I believe you already knew about this before you came. I did not deliberately go against you. That's why I recruited his junior sister into the Raging Flames sect. It's because her identity as an inscription master is very important to the Raging Flames sect. Following Wu Wenfeng's words, all the Di family cultivators present could not help but be stunned. They looked at Wu Wenfeng in astonishment and wondered if they had heard wrongly. Manager Wu, did I hear wrongly? Are you talking about Wanyan Han's junior sister? Di Sudong could not remain calm at this moment. An inscription master was an extremely powerful person. He had seen Wanyan Han just now. He was so young. As for his junior sister, she was even younger. How could such a young lady be an inscription master? Although I know it sounds unbelievable, I'm telling the truth. Wu Wenfeng looked serious. He did not want to fall out with the Di family. It was undoubtedly best to let the other party understand the reason and scruples he had. When I first heard this news, I also found it unbelievable. However, she later proved everything to me personally. The cultivators of the Di family fell silent for a moment. DeVos only felt that he had heard the funniest joke after hearing all this. Steward Wu, even if you want to deceive us, shouldn't you find a more believable explanation? When we came over just now, we already saw Wanyan Han and the others. The girl beside him should be his junior sister. So young and inexperienced. You actually said that she is an inscription master? This is impossible, DeVos said with certainty. He knew too well how difficult it was to become an inscription master. If it was a middle-aged man, he might believe it. But such a young girl was simply a fantasy. At this moment, even Di Sudong did not stop DeVos. In fact, he also felt that what DeVos said was very reasonable. No one would believe this at all. Young Master Di, I am explaining the reason to you. Are you saying that I am lying to you? Chapter 4268. Upon seeing the change in Wu Wenfeng's attitude and DeVos' expression, Di Sudong hurriedly said, Steward Wu, that's not what Wu Zhe meant. If that's not what he meant, then what did he mean? Wu Wenfeng stood up, displeasure written all over his solemn face. I'm telling you the whole story because of you. However, if you don't believe me, then I have nothing to say. Di Sudong frowned slightly, his gaze turning gloomy. Steward Wu, it's not that we don't believe you, but this reason is really difficult for us to accept. Forget it if you don't accept it. Wu Wenfeng's expression was icy, and his eyes were filled with a cold glint. Anyway, they are disciples of the Raging Inferno sect. No one can do anything to them here. If anyone from the outside dares to cause trouble in the Raging Inferno sect, that would be equivalent to challenging the entire Raging Inferno sect. I'm sure you know what we will do. Someone, send them off. Wu Wenfeng said coldly and turned around after sending them off. Obviously, he was unwilling to say anything more to the Di family's cultivators. He had originally wanted to talk nicely so that both parties would not fall out. However, he could not be bothered to say anything else after seeing their attitude. He did not believe that the Di family would be so courageous as to oppose the Raging Inferno sect in Rong and City. Seeing Wu Wenfeng's attitude, the expressions of Di Sudong and the others turned ugly. They wanted to say something, but the other party had already said so much. If they continued to say anything, they would really lose face. Let's go. Di Sudong snorted coldly, stood up, and walked out of the house without hesitation. DeVos and the others also glared angrily at Wu Wenfeng's retreating figure before walking out one after another. Their hearts were filled with extreme anger. Yan Xiangming and the other two had been waiting outside the house not far away. The three of them were rubbing their palms together, waiting to find trouble with Wang Yanhan and the other two later. Now that the Di family's people are here, Steward Wu will not protect Wang Yanhan and the others under such circumstances. Let's just wait and watch the show later. Big Brother Wu Zhe is very powerful. Wang Yanhan was so arrogant in front of us previously. I want to see if he can still be so arrogant in front of Big Brother Wu Zhe. Who asked that guy to be so stupid to not leave after such a thing happened? Isn't he just courting death by staying here? As the three of them were discussing how they were going to teach Wang Yanhan and the others a lesson, DeVos and the others walked out of the house. Seeing this, the three of them immediately went up to him. Big Brother Wu Zhe, what did Steward Wu say? Did he decide to chase Wang Yanhan and the others out of the Raging Inferno sect? Yan Xiangming's face was filled with anticipation. He was waiting to hear the good news that he had been waiting for. However, what he received in return was Di Wu's cold face. DeVos had already been unhappy because of Wu Wenfeng's attitude. Now that Yan Xiangming had asked him this question, he felt even more embarrassed. Almost everyone believed that they would teach Wang Yanhan a lesson when they came in such a grandiose manner. However, Wu Wenfeng did not allow them to do so. It was needless to say how embarrassing this was. The most abominable thing was that this was Rong and City. They did not dare to have a direct conflict with the Raging Inferno sect. At the thought of this, he had nowhere to vent his anger. Chapter 4269. Hearing DeVos' words, Yan Xiangming and the other two could not help but be stunned. Their eyes flashed with astonishment. Brother Wu Zhe, what do you mean? What else could it mean? DeVos glanced at the three of them. Your Steward Wu has been speaking in a bureaucratic manner. He actually said that they were disciples of the Blazing Flame School and that the Blazing Flame School had the responsibility to protect them. What a joke. Yan Xiangming and the other two were all dumbfounded when they heard this. They looked at each other in disbelief, unable to believe that this was actually true. That's impossible. Similar things have happened before. I've never seen Steward Wu so protective of the other party. That's because Wang Yanhan is capable. He's just a cultivator from the lower world with no background. Just from this point alone, we can tell that Wang Yanhan is capable. DeVos' eyes were cold and ruthless. I really underestimated this guy. He's quite capable. Then what do we do now? Are we going to let them go just like that? Yan Xiangming could not help but feel anxious. None of them had expected Steward Wu to be so protective of Wang Yanhan. However, they had always been enemies with Wang Yanhan. If they could not get rid of Wang Yanhan this time, wouldn't they be in trouble in the Blazing Flame School in the future? Impossible, DeVos said angrily. His eyes were burning with fury. When Tao died because of him, I'll never let them go. Even if they're capable today and we can't attack them in the Blazing Flame School, I don't believe that they can stay in the Blazing Flame School forever. As long as they come out, they won't be in the Blazing Flame School's territory. So what if I kill them? At this moment, Di Sudong also spoke up. These three young people are indeed quite capable. Although I don't know why Steward Wu would do this, with his confidence, I'm afraid it's really impossible to make a move in the Blazing Flame sect. Second uncle, I'll wait in Rong and City. I'll definitely get my chance. Di Sudong nodded slightly. Let's discuss this properly after we leave. We must avenge Wen Tao. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were standing not far from the Blazing Flame School's exit. However, they did not look worried at all. On the contrary, they looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. Look, they're here. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin, indicating the direction where DeVows and the others were coming from. Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao looked in the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang was pointing. As expected, the Di family's cultivators were gradually approaching. Wow, their expressions don't look too good. Yi Haomiao raised his eyebrows and laughed. A smile also appeared on Wanyan Han's face. Looks like Steward Wu really did what he promised us. At the same time, Yan Xiangming and the rest also noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Their originally gloomy faces became even more gloomy. Look, the Di family's cultivators have come out. Wanyan Han and the others are too bold. Instead of hiding, they actually came out to welcome them. Who knows? I think they're crazy. Let's wait for a good show. There's really a good show to watch now. The Blazing Flame School's cultivators watched this scene curiously. This was the most attention-grabbing event recently. As Yan Xiangming and the rest slowly walked in front of Wanyan Han and the other two, the atmosphere between them dropped to the freezing point. Chapter 4270. Looking at Wanyan Han now, Yan Xiangming felt even angrier. This guy was obviously relying on Steward Wu's protection and deliberately came to watch the show. Hearing this, Wanyan Han's smile became even brighter. I'll wait for you to settle the score with me slowly. DeVows took a step forward. His fist was obviously about to hit Di Shenyan. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice suddenly rang out. Young Master Di, I think you don't seem to understand the rules of the Raging Flame sect. If you dare to fight here, you'll be an enemy of the Raging Flame sect. I advise you not to be impulsive. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, DeVows couldn't help but withdraw his clenched fist. His expression became even more ferocious. What an arrogant girl. I'm not a girl, but... Bailey Hongzhuang paused. I'm arrogant. What can you do to me? The moment he said this, Di Wuzi became even angrier. You. Di Sudong grabbed DeVows' uncontrollable fist and stood in front of DeVows. He looked straight at Bailey Hongzhuang with a serious and cold gaze. Little girl, you're new here. It's better to keep a low profile. Uncle, I'll return the same words to you. It's better to keep a low profile in other people's territory. Di Sudong's expression also darkened. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an even more unfriendly gaze. Second uncle, this girl really needs to be taught a lesson. Wanyan Han looked coldly at DeVows. It's not up to you to decide whether she needs to be taught a lesson or not. Forget it. Let's go first. Di Sudong's voice was cold. He looked at Wanyan Han and the other two with an extremely gloomy gaze. The depths of his eyes were filled with killing intent. Seeing this, although DeVows was extremely unwilling, he could only nod. He said coldly to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, "We'll ride a donkey and read a songbook. Let's wait and see. Take care." Yi Haomiao waved his hand with a bright smile. The Di family's people angrily walked past Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Although they still looked very powerful, they felt a lot weaker than when they first arrived. The disciples of the Raging Flame sect were dumbfounded when they saw the Di family leave quietly. They looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two in a completely different light. It can't be? The Di family came to look for you personally, but you left with your tail between your legs? From the looks of it, Manager Wu must be very protective of them. I don't think so. What kind of bewitching potion did the three of them feed Manager Wu? He would rather offend the Di family to protect the three of them? For a moment, everyone felt that the world had changed. Such an inconceivable thing could actually happen. It was simply too terrifying. Thinking about the D family's faces just now, I feel so good. Yi Haomiao could not help but clench his fists. His face was filled with excitement. And Yan Xiangming and the others. They used to be so arrogant when they saw us, but today, they were all terrified. How delightful! Wan Yanhan also smiled. He patted Yi Haomiao's shoulder and said, "It was all because of me in the past. You also suffered a lot from them. We're all brothers. Why are you being so formal with me?" Yi Haomiao shook his head. "We share blessings and misfortunes. Aren't we doing very well now?" On the contrary, Yan Xiangming and the others were angered to death. Chapter 4271. Ever since Cheng Zonghao had seen that inscription, he had been thinking about it day and night. However, Wu Wenfeng had not come out ever since he had returned to the Raging Inferno sect. He had sent people to the trade market to ask around but had not received any credible information. He felt very helpless about this. He desperately wanted to understand everything, but there was no way out. The only person who knew about this was Wu Wenfeng. However, Cheng Zonghao knew very well that Wu Wenfeng would not tell him about this. Regarding this, he felt very helpless. Just as Cheng Zonghao was vexed over this matter, his subordinates suddenly came to report. "Master Cheng, I heard some news, but I am not sure if it is true." Upon hearing this, Cheng Zonghao's eyes lit up. He immediately said, "Tell me about it first." Recently, a new disciple joined the Raging Inferno sect. Her name is Bailey Hongzhuang. She has another identity, which is an inscription master. Inscription master? Cheng Zonghao was astonished. Could it be that Wu Wenfeng had already recruited that inscription master into the Raging Flame School while being secretive? That's not right. Cheng Zonghao frowned as he spoke. If she is an inscription master, why is she a disciple? Tell me clearly what is going on. As far as I know, Bailey Hongzhuang is only a lady in her 20s. Furthermore, she did not join as an inscription master but as a disciple. I am also very confused about this. However, according to the description of the Raging Inferno sect disciple, the inscription she drew was not bad and helped Wan Yanhan defeat Di Wentao. Di Wentao is the guy from the Di family who died a few days ago, right? Cheng Zonghao asked. That's him. Originally, everyone thought that Wan Yanhan would escape or be expelled by the Raging Inferno sect after killing him. However, the development of this matter surprised everyone. Wu Wenfeng was very protective of them and even recruited that inscription master back to his side. On top of that, the Di family's cultivators went to the Raging Inferno sect today but were rudely chased out by Wu Wenfeng. It was obvious that he wanted to protect Wan Yanhan and the rest to the end. The subordinate felt that this situation did not seem to be in line with Wu Wenfeng's usual style. Anyone could weigh the pros and cons between the Di family and a cultivator with no background. However, Wu Wenfeng still made such a decision. Moreover, the Raging Flame School didn't have any objections. This situation was worth asking. Perhaps, these problems really did appear on that woman. In fact, everything changed after that woman appeared. After listening to the report, Cheng Zonghao fell into deep thought. From the looks of it, this matter is indeed a little strange. Master Cheng, this subordinate will continue to inquire about this matter. As long as there is reliable news, this subordinate will definitely report it as soon as possible. Wait. Cheng Zonghao raised his right hand. Is there anything else, Master Cheng? Did you just say that the Di family's cultivators were chased out by Wu Wenfeng? That's right. It happened not long ago. All right, help me invite them back. As long as we ask them, we will be able to confirm this information. This subordinate will do it immediately. A smile appeared on Cheng Zonghao's face. Even if Wu Wenfeng tried to cover it up, he would definitely find out the truth of this matter. Chapter 4272. Di Sudong and the rest stayed in the inn after leaving the Blazing Flame sect. However, they were all filled with anger. That damned Wu Wenfeng. He is only a steward of the Blazing Flame sect. How dare he be so arrogant? How despicable! Devao's face was filled with anger as he clenched his fists. He really wanted to beat Wu Wenfeng and the three arrogant juniors to death. Wu Wenfeng must have his reasons for doing so. Our forces are not in Rong and City, so the Blazing Flame sect will not benefit us at all, Di Sudong said after some thought. Then what should we do? Di Wuza frowned. Could it be that we have no choice but to wait outside and wait? What if they don't come out? Won't we be wasting a lot of time here? Di Sudong turned to Yen Xiangming. Do you have a way to lure them out? They had come here with great fanfare, so they had to take revenge. If they went back just like that, they would lose face. Besides, Di Wentao's body was still warm. If they did not take revenge for him, how could they face the dead Di Wentao? Yen Xiangming and the other two exchanged glances with complicated expressions. We will think of a way, but given the current situation, I'm afraid they won't come out so easily. Yes, if we can think of it, they can too. They are so smug because they know we can't attack them in the Blazing Flame sect. I'm afraid they won't come out no matter what we do. If that's the case, this will be troublesome. Di Sudong's expression was ugly. He knew that Yen Xiangming and the rest were telling the truth. The other party was not stupid and could not be fooled so easily. At most, I'll just wait here. I don't believe they can stay in the Blazing Flame sect forever. They have to come out to buy things. DeVos slammed his fist on the table, his eyes bloodshot. I won't go back if I don't take revenge for Wentao. At that moment, a cultivator from the Di family suddenly walked in. Second uncle, Master Cheng of Rong, and City invites you over for a chat. Hearing that, Di Sudong raised his eyebrows and a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. Qing Zonghao? That's him. He just sent someone to invite you. Could it be that Wanyan Han and the others are really related to Qing Zonghao? Otherwise, why would he invite me over at a time like this? Di Sudong pondered. He really couldn't figure it out. Second uncle, I'll go with you. DeVos quickly said, I'd like to see what he's going to do. Since he has already invited us, we naturally have to go and take a look. But you can't be impulsive. Qing Zonghao is an inscription grandmaster. If we anger him, it won't do us any good. He's not Wu Wenfeng. You must restrain your attitude, do you understand? If you still don't know what's important, then I'll go on my own. Di Sudong looked at DeVos seriously. DeVos was too impulsive. Di Sudong felt helpless about his temper. Such an attitude was nothing in the Di family's sphere of influence. However, they had to restrain themselves outside. Second uncle, don't worry. I won't be impulsive this time, DeVos hurriedly said. Di Sudong stared deeply at DeVos before nodding. All right, come with me to take a look. The rest of you will stay in the inn and wait for our news. Di Sudong was silent for a moment before he nodded. All right. Even if he did not say anything, everyone would find out sooner or later. Rather than that, he might as well take this opportunity to do Qing Zonghao a favor. If he needed to use him in the future, he would still have some face. Chapter 4274. After listening to Di Sudong's narration, Qing Zonghao's eyes narrowed. Did Wu Wenfeng really say that the young lady he recruited was an inscription master? Di Sudong nodded. Wu Wenfeng did say that. Qing Zonghao's gaze kept changing. He had always felt that there was something fishy about this matter, but he could not figure out what the problem was. Now that Di Sudong had reminded him, he finally understood. Although this statement was indeed shocking, based on his understanding of Wu Wenfeng, he would definitely not have said such a ridiculous reason if there were other reasons. What he said to the Di family was probably not a lie, but the truth. If that young woman was really an inscription master, then all of these could be linked together. This would explain why Wu Wenfeng would personally come over with an inscription pattern for him to appraise. Similarly, it would also explain why he didn't come out after returning to the Blazing Flame School. Furthermore, the reason why he was so protective of Wanyan Han and the others was obvious. The value of an inscription master was indeed greater than offending the Di family. After all, the Di family's sphere of influence was very far away from them. Even if they offended them, they would not have many interactions in the future. On the contrary, an inscription master would be of great help to the Fiery Flame sect. Seeing that Qing Zonghao had fallen silent, Di Wuza could not help but say, "It's obvious that such a reason is fake." He clearly couldn't find a reason, so he came up with a reason that isn't a reason. Di Sudong's expression did not look good. When he noticed Cheng Zhonghao's expression, he could not help but ask, "Brother Cheng, you're an inscription master in Rong and City. I'm sure you know best about inscription masters. This is indeed fake, right?" Cheng Zhonghao thought about it and shook his head. "Not necessarily." Hearing Cheng Zhonghao's words, Di Sudong and Devouz could not help but be stunned. The two of them looked at him in astonishment, wondering if they had heard wrongly. "Brother Cheng, what do you mean? Do you think that lady could really be an inscription master?" "That's right." Cheng Zhonghao nodded. "Previously, Wu Wenfeng asked me to appraise an inscription pattern. I asked him who drew it, but he did not tell me. However, it was on that day that he seemed to have recruited that woman into the Blazing Flame School. Now that he put everything together, perhaps what he said was true. After all, since he has the guts to protect Wanyan Han and the rest, there is naturally no need for him to make up such a lie to deceive you. But we've seen that girl. She's too young. No matter how I look at her, she doesn't look like an inscription master." Devouz quickly said. Di Sudong also had a complicated expression on his face. This kind of situation was really hard to believe. "Actually, I've heard some news about this before. At that time I thought so too. But now, it seems that all of this might be true. Because only in this way can everything be connected." Cheng Zhonghao's mind was also constantly thinking. Previously, he had always felt that this news was unreliable, but now that things had developed to this point, it was time for him to meet that young woman. Chapter 4275. "Master Cheng, that girl doesn't look like an inscription master at all. Furthermore, based on what we saw, she is clearly just an ordinary disciple of the Blazing Flame sect." Di Wuza simply couldn't believe it. This was not something that he didn't want to believe. No matter who saw Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, they wouldn't believe it. This was simply a fantasy. Cheng Zhonghao glanced at Di Wuza before he turned to Di Sudong and said, "Brother Di, you are actually a sensible person. You should understand that there is no need for Wu Wenfeng to lie to you at this time." Di Sudong nodded. "Brother Cheng, you're right. If it weren't for you reminding me, I would have overlooked this point. If this is really the case, then this girl is really surprising." Di Sudong sighed. If the other party was really an inscription master, then this would indeed be troublesome for them. "Brother Di, you don't have to be too anxious. I will think of a way to investigate this matter," said Cheng Zhonghao. "Then I will have to trouble you, Brother Cheng. I hope you can let me know after you confirm it." "Don't worry." After the Di family cultivators left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two returned to the house to cultivate. They had already made up their minds to stay in the Blazing Flame sect for the next few days. They knew that the Di family would definitely not let this matter rest. If they went out now, what awaited them would definitely be an ambush. However, the truth was just as they had expected. Yan Xiangming and the other two started to think of ways to find fault with them after they returned. "Wanyan Han, what kind of ability do you think you have by being so cowardly? Do you think you can do it with Steward Wu's protection?" Yan Xiangming was also filled with anger at the moment. Ever since the incident that day, he had felt extremely aggrieved during this period of time. Ever since he had joined the Blazing Flame sect, he had never been so sullen. This feeling was simply unbearable and almost drove him crazy. Now that the reinforcements had finally arrived, he could not take action. One could imagine how sullen he felt. In the face of Yan Xiangming's anger, Wanyan Han was extremely calm. "That's right. We have Steward Wu's protection. But are you not convinced? What kind of ability are you hiding here? If you have the ability, then follow me outside." Yan Xiangming said angrily. Yi Haomiao chuckled. "Why would I go outside with you? One-on-one? If you want to fight me one-on-one, you don't have to go outside. We can fight here. However, if you want us to lure the Di family out, I'm sorry, but we're not that stupid." As he spoke, Yi Haomiao couldn't help but look at Wanyan Han. His eyes were filled with speechlessness. In the past, I only felt that this guy, Di Wentao, was stupid and annoying. Now, It seems that he's the most enlightened in this group. Yan Xiangming listened to their conversation in a daze, but he didn't even have the chance to talk back. I don't believe that you can stay here forever. I don't believe that the D family can keep waiting outside. Anyway, we are not in a hurry. Let's see how patient they are. Wang Yanhan's gaze was cold. This was originally a tug-of-war. They wanted to see who would lose their patience first. However, he believed that the D family would be the ones who couldn't take it. Chapter 4276. After Di Sudong and the rest returned from Cheng Zhonghao's place, they stayed in the inn. They couldn't understand what had happened today, so everyone seemed to have a lot on their minds. Second uncle, what Master Cheng said can't be true, right? No matter how I look at it, that girl doesn't look like an inscription master. DeVows couldn't help but say. Di Sudong's face darkened. Actually, Cheng Da's analysis is very reasonable. In today's situation, Wu Wenfeng indeed has no need to deceive us. However, since Master Cheng said that he will check it out, we will just stay here and wait for the news. If Master Cheng's judgment is right and that girl is really an inscription master, then what should we do? DeVows' face turned ugly. Are we just going to let this matter go and not avenge Wen Tao? Hearing this, Di Sudong also fell into deep thought. However, his gaze gradually sharpened. Wen Tao's revenge must be avenged. Even if she is really an inscription master, we must take advantage of the fact that she has yet to gain a firm foothold here and get rid of her as soon as possible. DeVows, who was originally a little depressed, looked better after hearing this. He immediately nodded solemnly, okay. Just now, Yan Xiangming and the rest have already gone back to think of a way. I don't know if we can lure them out. Just as DeVows was speaking, Yan Xiangming and the other two had already returned. However, after hearing the situation from Yan Xiangming and the other two, DeVows couldn't hold back his temper anymore. Are you all stupid pigs? How can they come out with such a method? Why don't you use your brains and think about it? Just by thinking about it, you know that all of this is simply impossible. Yan Xiangming and the other two shrunk their heads. Facing DeVows' reprimand, they could only endure it. Forget it, you all go back first. I will think of a way. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but shake her head after learning about Yan Xiangming and the other two's actions. These three guys are really stupid. Even if they want to lure us out, they should find a smarter excuse. Only a fool would agree to this kind of clamor. Actually, the three of them really don't have brains. If they had brains, they wouldn't be like this now. Yi Haomiao spread out his hands. His seemingly helpless expression was full of mockery. Maybe it's because they're stupid enough that they've always been loyal to Di Wentao. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. However, with their IQ, I don't think we need to worry. Just as they were talking, an unfamiliar disciple of the Blazing Flames school knocked on her door. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm here to deliver a message. The man looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two with fear in his eyes. In fact, the three Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were known to be existences not to be trifled with. What's the message? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Master Cheng is looking for you. He wants to invite you out for a chat. The man's eyes were filled with excitement. He's the only inscription master in Rong and City. Being invited by him is something that everyone is looking forward to the most. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. Then she replied with two words, I'm not going. Hearing this, the man couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at her as if he was looking at a monster. Chapter 4277. I'm not going. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again, repeating her previous answer. The man stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in a daze. He stood rooted to the ground as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. Didn't you hear what I said? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a frown. The man was stunned before he nodded. I heard you. Aren't you going to report back? Oh, I'll go right away. After the man left, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Little junior sister, Master Cheng is an extremely powerful inscription master. How could you reject his invitation? I don't know him, so why should I go? Besides, he didn't invite me earlier or later. Why did he invite me now? Don't you think it's strange? Bailey Hongzhuang retorted. That's true. Perhaps this is a scheme the D family came up with to lure us out and defeat us one by one. Yi Haomiao revealed a look of amazement. This move is much stronger than what Yan Xiangming and the others used before. Wan Yanhan nodded. In that case, it's indeed better not to go. After all, it's better to be careful. In my opinion, we shouldn't think about it no matter what news we hear. We should just stay quietly in the Raging Flames sect. As long as we stay here, the D family won't be able to find trouble with us. Yi Haomiao sat on the chair nonchalantly. He looked like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. He had already made up his mind. Cheng Zonghao couldn't help but be stunned when he heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had rejected his invitation. He hadn't expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually reject his invitation. Master Cheng, Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't know what's good for her. It's already her great fortune that you're willing to invite her. She actually rejected your invitation. How despicable! Cheng Zonghao raised his right hand slightly and smiled faintly. It's okay. It's not strange. Master, your temper is too good. I think she doesn't know how to appreciate favors. I think she might have taken my invitation as a cover for the D family. Given the current situation, it is indeed possible for her to think that way. Then should this subordinate go over again and explain to her? Cheng Zonghao waved his hand. No need. Next time, I'll go to the Raging Flame school personally. This little girl is indeed very interesting. When his subordinates heard that Cheng Zonghao was going to the Raging Flames gate to see Bailey Hongzhuang, they couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The other party was just a young girl. She was actually able to make his master personally meet her. Wasn't this a little too much face? In comparison, Cheng Zonghao didn't think so. He only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang might have really mastered a very powerful method, otherwise Wu Wenfeng would not be so protective of her. When he thought about how the method that he hadn't been able to decipher for so many years might be in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, he felt somewhat conflicted. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Wan Yanhan were about to return to the house after their discussion, another lady suddenly came looking for them. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. What's the matter? Miss Bailey, there's a man outside who wants to see you. I'm not going to see him. No matter who he is, please help me answer that I'm not seeing him. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand, a wave of annoyance in her heart. The D family's people had already failed once, and now they were using the same trick again. It was too boring. Chapter 4278. Yi Haomiao's eyes lit up with curiosity when he heard the woman's words. This is interesting. What kind of person is so confident that you'll definitely go out and meet him once he says his name? What did that man say his name was? Tell us about it. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in her tracks. She had not even gone out when the D family had mentioned Cheng Zonghao's name. Now, she was so confident. This was indeed strange. After all, she had only been in the upper realm for a short period of time. Apart from Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao, she had not interacted with anyone else. It would be very difficult to get hold of her weakness. When she saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were starting to get interested again, she could not help but whisper, "He said his name is Bewitching." As the woman's voice fell, Wan Yanhan couldn't help but be taken aback. His eyes flashed with deep astonishment. He was no stranger to this name. Bewitching? Yi Haomiao frowned. Who is that? I've never heard of him before. However, just as Yi Haomiao turned his head, he found that Bailey Hongzhuang's figure had disappeared. He couldn't help but be stunned and turned to look at Wan Yanhan. Wan Yanhan, what's going on? Wan Yanhan glanced at Yi Haomiao and said, Bewitching is Junior Sister's husband. Yi Haomiao was dumbfounded when he heard this. His face was full of astonishment. Is this true? Didn't Miss Bailey say that her husband was in the lower realm? How did he suddenly find this place? I don't know. Wan Yanhan shook his head. Perhaps he knew that Junior Sister had come to the upper realm, so he came here. Then let's go out and take a look. Let's go. Outside the Raging Flames sect, a white figure stood there for a long time. The man was tall and his back was straight. He had sword-like eyebrows, starry eyes, and a high nose bridge. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows seemed to be carefully carved by the heavens. They were perfect and flawless. A few koi fish were woven with silver thread at the end of his long white robe. It was otherworldly and elegant. He just stood there quietly, looking into the raging flame sect. Clearly, he was waiting for someone. At this moment, a group of people had already gathered around the white-robed man. Numerous gazes of surprise and curiosity landed on him. There were even quite a few women standing to the side who had already blushed. What a handsome young master. I have never seen such a handsome man before. He must have just arrived in Rome and city. Otherwise, we would have heard of such a handsome man. From the looks of it, he must have come to our house of raging flames to look for someone. I wonder who he is looking for? I really envy the woman who helped to pass on the message just now. At least she could say a few words to him. I do hope that he's a new disciple who came to report to the Blazing Flame School. There have been many new disciples who have come to report to the Blazing Flame School. Everyone whispered to each other, but they all stopped on the spot. Obviously, they wanted to know who this handsome man was waiting for. Of course, almost all the women hoped that he was waiting for a man. That way, they would have hope. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard the name Bewitching, she quickly ran out of the house of raging flames. Her elegant and refined face was filled with anticipation. Her beautiful eyes flickered with ecstasy. Chapter 4279. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang had arrived in the upper realm, she had been burdened with anxiety. On one hand, she was worried that Bewitching would not know that she was still alive and would fall into agony because of this. On the other hand, she was worried that Bewitching would not be able to find her after arriving in the upper realm. In this vast upper realm, if the other party did not know of her existence, then the chances of them meeting was very slim. She wanted to find out where the D family was, but she realized that it was extremely difficult to reach that level. With all these situations stacked together, one could imagine how complicated her feelings were. She did not want to be separated from Bewitching just like this. She might not even be able to see him again for the rest of her life. However, she did not expect to suddenly hear the news that Bewitching had come to look for her today. She was simply overjoyed. After hearing this news, the three beasts' eyes were filled with joy. I never thought that Bewitching would be able to find Master so quickly. It seems that he's extraordinarily capable. Xiao Hei's eyes sparkled with excitement. She could not help but clap her hands. Bewitching has always been very smart. It's not surprising that he would be able to find Master. However, I'm still surprised that he was able to find her so quickly. Xiao Bai smiled. That's great. Master has been depressed because of this matter all this time. Now that Bewitching is here, Master doesn't have to be sad anymore. Baisher could not help but sigh in relief. His biggest wish was for his master to be happy. Although his master usually did not express anything in front of them, Baisher had followed his master for so long that he understood his master's character very well. He could even see his master's current emotions from her small, unintentional movements. Bailey Hongzhuang rushed to the entrance of the Blazing Flames sect as fast as the wind. As expected, she saw a familiar tall figure from afar. With just a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang recognized the familiar figure. At that moment, her eyes suddenly became sour, and her bright eyes gradually became moist. Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps could not help but slow down. Staring at the charming figure, thousands of emotions flashed through her mind. As if feeling the gaze behind him, Bewitching turned around at the same time. When he saw that familiar figure, the curve of his lips couldn't help but gradually widen. His already extraordinarily handsome face became even more enchanting and charming. An indescribable warmth radiated from her body, as warm and enchanting as the winter sun. Even if the face in front of him was not the one he was familiar with, as long as he looked at the familiar figure, he could be sure that this person was his wife. Wife. His deep and magnetic voice was filled with longing and joy. Bewitching stepped forward. His long and narrow eyes were overflowing with color. It was as if his entire world had lit up the moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. During this period of time, he had been rushing about in search of Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, the worry in his heart had never lessened. At the time, Bailey Hongzhuang had entered the upper realm while being surrounded by everyone. He had never known the situation of Bailey Hongzhuang, so during this period of time, he had been worried that she might have met with some mishap. Chapter 4280. Hearing that familiar voice, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart skipped a beat. The smile on her lips became even more radiant. Then, she took a step forward and ran towards Di Beichen. The smile on Di Beichen's face became even more affectionate. He opened his arms and pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his embrace. "Beichen!" Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly. She hugged Di Beichen tightly, feeling his familiar temperature, smell, and even heartbeat. Her heart, which had been floating around for the past few days, seemed to settle down in an instant. "Wife, I'm here," Di Beichen slowly said in Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. His deep voice was a little hoarse, but it couldn't hide the longing it contained. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly in Di Beichen's embrace. Her little face was pressed against Di Beichen's chest. Only when her emotions calmed down did she slowly raise her little face and look at Di Beichen's handsome face. After taking a closer look, she discovered that Di Beichen's eyelids were slightly green. His clothes were also covered in dust. It was obvious that he had been running around for the past few days and hadn't had a good rest. "Beichen, you've been working hard these days, haven't you?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked with concern. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and boneless hands and shook his head with a smile. "As long as I can see you, nothing else matters." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. A sweet feeling spread in her heart. "Did you come alone?" "I came alone." Di Beichen nodded. When Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao arrived outside the Gate of Raging Flames, they saw the two figures hugging each other. They couldn't help but look at each other. Their expressions changed a little, and a trace of joy surged in their hearts. "Is he Miss Bailey's husband?" Yi Haomiao's eyes flashed with amazement. Even though he was a man, he was still shocked the moment he saw Di Beichen. Previously, he had always thought that since Bailey Hongzhuang was so outstanding, her husband should also be extremely outstanding. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of her. However, after meeting Di Beichen, he felt that such a man was really rare in the world. Usually, he still had some confidence in himself. But facing a man like Di Beichen, he couldn't help but feel inferior. "I think so. Actually, I haven't seen him before. But thinking about it, only a man like him is worthy of junior sister." Wan Yanhan smiled as he recalled how Bailey Hongzhuang always missed Di Beichen. In the past, he still had some doubts, but after seeing her today, the doubts in his heart completely disappeared. The two of them were really a match made in heaven. Aside from them, Di Beichen was probably not suitable for anyone else. Yi Haomiao's expression was rather complicated as he stared at the two figures hugging each other. To be honest, based on appearance alone, he felt that Di Beichen seemed to be more outstanding than Bailey Hongzhuang. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt that since Bailey Hongzhuang was so outstanding, it wouldn't be bad to make up for it. Di Beichen was originally surrounded by a group of cultivators. Everyone was curious as to who he was waiting for. When they saw Bailey Hongzhuang appear, they couldn't help but be stunned. Many possibilities flashed across their minds, but they never thought that the person who had come would be Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman had only joined the Blazing Flames Order for a few days, but she was exceptionally eye-catching. Chapter 4281. Heavens, I never thought that it would be her. Where did this woman come from? Why is everything that has happened recently related to her? Even Steward Wu is protecting her. It's really strange. This man is so handsome. How did he fall for Bailey Hongzhuang? Look, their appearances are clearly not compatible. The group of women could not help but sigh. Looking at Di Beichen's incomparably handsome appearance, they felt that no one was worthy of him. However, the way Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang now was so obvious with the gentleness and adoration in his eyes. It was obvious that he had placed all his thoughts on her. This is too much of a blow. Did you guys hear what he called Bailey Hongzhuang just now? He actually called Bailey Hongzhuang his wife. Doesn't this mean that they're already married? This is unreasonable. Then isn't there no hope for us? For a moment, The area around Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching was filled with wails and howls. The sound of hearts breaking rose and fell one after another. Then, the group of women hugged each other for warmth and left. However, there were still many women who refused to give up until all hope was lost. They were unwilling to shift their gazes away from Bewitching. Bewitching, why did you come here alone? Didn't Ying and the others come? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with anticipation. Until now, she was still unwilling to believe that Ying and the others might have fallen. At this moment, the reunion had left her with too many doubts. There were countless questions in her heart, and she only wanted to clarify them one by one. Previously, when I came out of the ruins, I heard the sound of your bomb. I immediately rushed over to look for you, but I was still one step too late. Later on, when I was looking for you, I found your hairpin at the side of the road. I was certain that you must have come to the upper realm, so I didn't have time to greet them and came here alone. However, when I entered the passage, I heard Xiren's voice. He must have come to look for us. Bewitching spoke slowly. At that time, he had left in a hurry, but he still clearly remembered hearing Xiren's call. If he had slowed down a little, he would have been able to exchange a few words with Xiren and the others. However, since things had come to this, he was not too worried. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying knew that they had come to the upper realm. They would probably come here after they broke through to the Starlight Realm. Hearing Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang, and I thought you didn't know that I had come to the upper realm. 2. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, she had lost a hairpin. After coming to the upper realm, she also realized this, but she didn't know where her hairpin had fallen. She didn't expect it to fall at the entrance to the upper realm from the lower realm and leave such a message for Bewitching. Otherwise, she really didn't know how long it would have taken for her to reunite with Bewitching. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of the White Dragon's figure. The reason why she was able to resolve the crisis was entirely because of the White Dragon. Maybe the White Dragon deliberately left the hairpin there. After all, it was too much of a coincidence. Wife, I still don't know what happened after I went to accept the inheritance. How did you end up like this? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.